Here's where we are. We actually started spring practice last week, last Tuesday, and this afternoon we'll have our fifth practice, and then have a pretty significant scrimmage on Saturday morning, and with the intent of working primarily on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays through Saturday, March 6th, and so far, we've had no interruptions, due to the virus, and so it's been good for us to work. And then the other part of it is wanting to conclude prior to recognition, which for the freshmen is the weekend of the 11th through the 13th of March.
Has practice been normal in terms of the virus? Has that changed anything you're able to do on the field?
Yeah, it's very much so. And both on the practice field and in the weight room, there's still some things that we have to do when it comes to the meeting part of it. There have been some adjustments whenever you're in a meeting room. I absolutely love it. In the sense that, you look at really where we are. I think, golly, we have, going off the top of my head here, I think we have three starters that you'd say are returning from, on the defensive side. 1, 2, 3 on the offensive side. And then even if you were to go back a year to 2019, defensively we have, at most will be one of our top 5 tacklers, and offensively 0 starters back from that team. So very much so. I think one of the things, probably a reality a little bit, is we're an underdog, and we know that. Just when it looks, I think especially when you look at the number of guys that are returning. Yet at the same time, I'll say this: just the spirit and the work ethic of these guys. It's been neat to see. Now, we still have 10 more practices, but I really look forward not only to this afternoon, but certainly when we scrimmage on Saturday, too.
The guys who were gone for a while, David Cormier, DeMonte Meeks, have they come back in the kind of condition you would have wanted after they were gone from the academy for?
Well, I think what we're doing is, I think that's one of the things that you work towards for all of our guys. So much of our emphasis during the month of January, it wasn't necessarily conditioning. Now, there's still some conditioning involved. It's just you don't have the same 12 or 14 play drives during spring ball. And but it has been good to have everybody out there. The guys that are able to practice, to have them, just to have them to be a part of us.
Okay. And then at quarterback, having Hazik get playing time, has he come back in the spring the way you have seen other quarterbacks with playing time, and they're ready to kind of make some different moves in what they're recognizing?
It's not only that position, but I think all the positions. It's, you do see some growth, I think, at least in terms of recognition, and which I think is a key part of playing quarterback, or really any spot, but certainly at the quarterback. And, what'll be, again, we got to plow forward. And just the amount that guys have been able to digest, one of the things that we chose to do was within the first 2 days of practice to input what we think will be over 95% of our calls, offensively and defensively. So there was a lot. We really, really made it a front-end loaded spring install plan, just because we felt like we had to expose some of the guys that maybe had been away for a few months, and yet also to be able to kind of move forward with some of the other guys too. And I think really the only 2 areas where would be goal line. We've yet to truly install our goal line, and then the other one would be 3rd and long. But everything else is in there. That's why I say, if we're able to play, say, 12 games next fall, and you have roughly 700 plays from the line of scrimmage, I bet at least probably 680 of them have been installed.
Why the urgency with that?
We kind of went into it and we thought it'd be invaluable. You get a little more repeat work with certain calls, and then the other part of it is because we're going to take on really a holistically a much different schedule. With who you play, when you look at two non-conference games, and then having three other new opponents, from the western side of the division, and then some of the changes that have occurred within the league. We just kind of felt like, hey, we got to expose our guys to our full system, and that way when there's some recall, whenever we do go play or game plan in the fall, maybe there's a little more there since they've heard some of that terminology or some of those adjustments that we have to make. And probably the other part of it too, as you look, I mean, our team's our team, and certainly that presents, quite a challenge. I think when you go on the horizon, not only this year for the number of returnees that we're going to face within our conference, but probably to a degree through 2023, just that we're going to encounter, especially within our league, some, little bit larger rosters, just because there are some scholarship additions that are allowed to occur at other schools. And, when I say our team is our team, I mean, it's not like we're going to add somebody that's, at a community college or a graduate transfer or an immediately eligible transfer either. And so now we'll have our freshmen, certainly when they join us in July, but this is pretty close to the squad that's going to be there for us.
Incoming freshmen, the signing class you just had, by the numbers I saw, was one of your higher rated, at least by the services. What were your thoughts on the class in general?
I think the biggest thing we have to do with anybody that we have involved is just, it's the patience part of it, the commitment that we make to full development. That's in the weight room. Certainly that's also being able to work their way and matriculate through the Air Force Academy too. I mean, I think you have to have some of that. There are going to be times where it feels more than methodical, but that's part of the process. But certainly we're excited about the guys that have made the decision that they want to come to the Air Force Academy.
Okay. And how do you think Parker Ferguson looked in the Hula Bowl?
Yeah, I thought he played pretty darn well. I mean, as natural as he looked in there at guard, on some of the pulls, the way he handled some of the bull rushes. Golly, I mean, that was fun to watch.
Coach, just kind of stepping back a bit and talking about the spring practice in general, I'm wondering kind of how the biggest difference is from last year since everything got messed up in the 2020 offseason, now moving forward to 2021. Has there been any radical changes with how you approach the offseason workouts, or have things kind of been business as usual now that we kind of know the protocols?
I wouldn't say necessarily radical changes. One of the things I mentioned a little bit earlier, just the awareness of how you meet, just the necessary distribution, and even some of the spacing that has to occur when you do meet. So that's that's something that we've carried forward from the fall, and probably the other thing that comes to mind a little bit. Just some of the PE classes. Our guys have had to complete academically some PE classes that they weren't able to complete last spring. So that's a consideration for us, at least in terms of how we organize practices. But still, we've been able to be fully committed to the workout part of it.
You've talked a bit about possible vaccinations here in the next month or two. Would that ease the, I don't know how to phrase it necessarily, but ease the tension of having to stay far away from each other, all the close contact protocols? Is that optimistic that happens here in the off season soon? Does that change things as well?
Well, I think it does. You look, golly, and like I said, academically, you're in person. I think you're eyeball to eyeball. You're with people. I think it would only enrich the leadership experience that all of our cadets have here at the Air Force Academy. And then hopefully once we get to the fall, that means, being able to open the gates, for attendance, to have people involved in our games, and even something as being able to have the players over to our homes, just to build even more the the esprit and the family part of what you want within a football program. And I think especially we're going to want that this year. Again, I think you look by and large, we're going to we'll be an underdog, so just how, the work ethic and the amount of time that you spend together, that cohesiveness, the kind of camaraderie. And this is a group that I do think, when it comes to the heart and the character and the spirit part of it, it's will be an interesting group just because of how committed they are.
And my last one for you, I know you can't predict the future, obviously, especially these last couple of years, but has there been any talk about letting the fans through the gates in the fall, and what has to happen for that to become a reality?
Golly, you sure hope so. It's, I know there's a threshold point. Science determines that. What would it take? Is it a full percentage of fans? Is it 50%? What is it? Aren't we all? I think all of us are hoping that's the case. To be able to go watch the Rockies, or certainly to have people here at Falcon Stadium, and family, friends, and but also just the Colorado Springs community. We certainly feed off, the verve and the support, not only as a football team, but just as an institution. Really how splendid this area is in terms of the support they provide to our military members, and hopefully there's a part of it on Saturday afternoons too.
When I'm out there to observe spring practice, there's always one or two guys who, a corner playing safety, receiver, move to the Z or tailback, any of that individuals going on right now?
Yeah, what we have done, Brent, there are probably 4 guys that we will do that. Let me phrase it that way. Once we get through probably 9 practices, there are some guys that we've identified that we're going to move to other spots, and whether that holds true or not, I'm going to have a better idea here in 2 weeks, just who we do that with. There are a couple of the linebackers. Do we want to play inside? Do we want to play outside? I think the other thing is just safety. Some of the versatility that we're going to ask a few of the safeties to have, whether they play the nickel spot or maybe even have them some carryover learning happen also at a corner spot too.
Would the linebacker spot in particular be because you have a surplus of guys who have played well? You've got to find a spot for them?
I do think we have some guys that have been exposed to playing there. It's I think more than anything else, how many guys do we want to cross-train? And I say that again from the standpoint, and there'll be a couple of guys on offense too. I think especially within the interior, we have a good number of guys certainly in our offensive line that may not have extensive experience, but within a given week, if there's a time we say, all right, we want to make sure we get these 5 guys out there. They're going to be a point where we have some guys that are working at tackle right now that we want to move in there to guard, to take a look at them at those positions. But I just think, for us, just building depth is invaluable, and we aren't going to be able to go to the transfer portal and say, all right, in June or July, this guy's in the portal, let's bring him in. We have zero access to free agency, so what we can do though, we can build it from within our squad.
Is the offensive line probably the most inexperienced group you have right now?
Oh gosh, yeah. You look at receiver, just with Ben Peterson and Dan Morris graduating, 2 guys that were. They played a bunch of downs for us this past year. And then in the backfield, too. At tailback, with Cade Rimsberg and Josh Stoner. Then you look defensively. So, yeah, I think there are a good number of spots where that's the case. It's, again, we don't have a large number of returning starters. And out of the 130 schools that are playing FBS football, we might be, there might be 125 that have more. Yet at the same time, just when it comes to, again, just the commitment, the dedication that we have and how hard we work, this will be an interesting group to follow.